Hey, how's it going everyone? Craig here from Soundiron, and in today's walkthrough I'm excited to take you through our newest vintage keys collection. This collection is a treasure trove of analog synthesizers, electric organs, and built-in drum machines spanning the last 60 years. With over 85,000 samples across 23 different libraries, from gritty basses to ethereal soundscapes, you have everything you need for any electronic genre or style. The Vintage Keys collection is built for the Contact 7 player and is compatible with all NKS standard hardware. Along with 484 presets, this library is designed to spark your creativity. So let's go ahead and dive in and start checking out the Vintage Keys collection. So one of the standout features within the Vintage Keys collection is this XY pad right here, and this allows you to intuitively blend between 4 different layers. And with each of these layers, you have the ability to change all of these different Vintage Keys libraries. So a lot of really cool stuff to play around with, from different sustains and staccatos and things like that. So we're going to be checking out some of the presets with this library, and then we're going to be checking out 2 new libraries that we've added to this collection that you can't get on their own. So let's go ahead and start playing through some different presets now. So to access some of these presets, you just click up here at the top and you'll see that you have ARPs, leads, pads, and effects. So let's go ahead and check out some ARPs now. I'm just going to click a random one and just see how it sounds. All right, so now let's check out some of the leads. This one's called Nebulon 2000, so let's have a listen to this. Now let's have a listen to some of the pad presets. So as you can see, as I'm playing with this preset, there's some automated XY stuff going on. So if you head over here to this macros button, you'll see that the Y axis is enabled to where it'll just automatically move on its own. So the cool thing about that is that the X and Y are also MIDI CC assignables. So if you want to let the Y just go up and down, while then panning around the different layers, you can do that. Or you can turn this off and just use the X and Y on your MIDI CC however you want to assign it and just play around like that. So that's really cool. And then you also have some other controls per layer. You have an LFO, a filter, and an ARP. So if we were to go to this layer and we had some staccatos playing, we can turn on the ARP and let's see how that sounds. Or if you want, you can just have the macros work on their own. So if we just turn these back on, they're both set to crossfade, and then we can control the speed. We can make it a little bit slower, but increase the range so that it's covering all of the XY surface. So let's check that out. And then the cool thing about this is that if you just want to play around with it, you can lock these different locks right here. So this will set it to where it won't change the sounds, but it'll change the different parameters when you randomize. So let's check that out. So we'll just hit randomize and see what happens. Let's try another one. But let's say you just want to randomize everything. You could just unlock those different layers, hit randomize, and just see what types of sounds that you get. So let's check this out now. And one of the really cool things that we have in this user interface that you've seen before is these 4 macro knobs. And what's really cool about this is that you can map them to different parameters, different effects. So if you can see right here, this is set to layer 1. You can set it to different layers as well as the effects rack. So if you want to set it to an effect that's loaded in here, just make sure that it's turned on and loaded, and that's all you need to do. And then you can set the range. So if you want it to be just within like 0 and 50 or 50 and 100, you really have a lot of different options that you can do to really get crazy sound design with this library. So definitely experiment with the macros and with the different effects and parameters. All right, so now I want to take you through 2 of the newest vintage keys that we've added for this collection that you can't get individually. So this is the Concorda. It's a really cool vintage key library. And let's just go ahead and play through some of the sounds, and then I'll talk about some things that we've added to this user interface. So let's just check this out. So right now you can see above the drop downs that there's this multi-voice option enabled. And what this does is it allows you to either use this slider to increase an octave, which will add an octave above and below the note. And then you also, if you click this, you'll see detune, which will add multiple voices and give it that analog chorusy sound. So let's check it out with detune. I'm just gonna play a note and then we're gonna increase this. Or we can do it to octave. So I'm gonna bring this back and let's check this out. And it really thickens up the sound. So if you wanna take some of these different bass synths and just give them a little bit more of a thicker sound. So let's go back to the first sound that you heard, and then I'm gonna leave the octave on. Or we can set it to detune and check that out. And I really like this sound, it gives it a cool chorusy effect. And then we have some other sustains. Let's just go through and pick a random one. This one's got a nice thick sound to it. And then we also have some staccato variants of this as well. And then if you click up here, you'll see that you have an ARP, a filter, and an LFO. So if you want to turn the ARP on, play around with the direction. Then we can head over here to the effects rack. Let's turn on some effects. I'm going to turn this on, but then I'm going to set this to, let's try a delay. So we also took some of these raw samples, mangled them up to give you some cool sound design. So let's check out some of these atmospheric pads, textures, and drones. So let's listen to these. So you can see there's 20 different ambiances to choose from, so let's just try another one. And then you also have some different sound shaping controls down here. You got volume, attack, offset, release with a couple options, width, which is really cool because it takes these, especially for the ambiances, and just widens them out across the stereo field. So if we were to just set this to default and have a listen. Still sounds cool, but once you increase this width, it gets really wide. So really awesome. So before we check out the next organ, another thing I want to mention is that you have a couple different microphone positions to choose from. So we recorded them with mics, and then we also recorded the direct input of these instruments. So you have a few different tonal options to choose from. So I'm just going to quickly give you a little bit of a demo of the mic'd sound. So let's check this out. So for the next vintage keys that we've added specifically for this collection is the Elytron. So let's have a listen to this one now. This is using mic 1. And you'll hear that with a lot of these different vintage keys. They're great for doing any type of old school video game and getting that retro sound. And definitely explore, because there's a lot of really awesome sounds that you can craft an entire track using some of these sounds. So that's sustain 4, so let's check out some of these other sustains. And when you click this drop down, you see that there's a whole bunch to choose from. So let's just play around with some of these. Some really nice bassy sustains. And then we can go ahead and add that detune. Or we can use the octave slider to really thicken up that sound. Now let's have a listen to some of the ambiences that we created for this library specifically, so let's check these out. Some really cool evolving ambiences. And one of the other really cool features that I want to show you is the X fade right here. So this allows you to blend between different layers, and you can do this between all 4 layers. So you have a lot of really cool options as far as that goes. So if we want to crossfade between ambience 2 and the ambience 1, the ampersand layers, we can set these to whatever layers we want. So if we want to set ampersand 2 to layer A or ampersand 1 to layer B, we can do that. And then just learn this to our mod wheel or any other CC controller of your choosing. And let's just check this out. So we have this really delicate kind of ambience. And then we can bring in that other ambience. Just crossfade between them. Or we can have ampersand 2 always play, so let's check that out. So we'll set this to none, so that way when we crossfade into it, we're going to be layering them. So let's have a listen to that. Or we can do some other things too. So if we want to take ampersand 1 and really make it wide so it's widening as we're fading into it, and then we can also pitch it down too. So let's pitch it down an octave just to get a really wide and deep sound. So let's check that out. So that's really cool. And then if we want to do something else, we can go to mic 1. Let's turn this on. Let's find a staccato that we like. And I'm going to use the arpeggiator for this too. So let's turn this on. That actually sounds pretty cool. I'm going to increase the attack a little bit. We can play around with the offset. Get a nice little sub pulse going on. And we can have it to where this just plays all the time. So let's check that out. or we can play around with the speed. So if we want it to be a little bit faster, and then let's play around with the width a little bit. So let's widen it up a little bit. So a lot of really cool things you can do using all of these different features within the library. And for some of the vintage keys that we didn't cover in this walkthrough, we have the full individual walkthroughs of a lot of these products in the playlist, so make sure to check those out if you want to dive a little bit more deeply into the individual ones that we have in this collection. All right, so that about wraps up this walkthrough for the Vintage Keys collection. If you want to learn more about this library or check out some demos to hear it in action, make sure to go to soundiron.com. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. See ya.